welcome back. We are ready to start into top 8. I'm Lydia and I'm joined by Connor, and we're going to have some international action for you.
Yeah, we have Gustavo, Wada versus Adam Hawkins. The chat was going nuts as soon as the bracket went up going, we need to see this game is insane. And we're like, yeah, no, I can kind of see where they're coming from with that.
We agreed, and we thought to bring you this action. So what matchup are we going to see, Connor?
So Gustavo has brought the Zapdos with the Jolteon GX. And I believe that was very similar for Adam. I can't remember if Adam was also playing Malamar. He has played Malamar before. If we can just quickly go to... if we go to the bracket, I can double check that. If you open the bracket slide. We have the deck lists next to us. There we go. So... Because it's been a long couple of days. This is Zapdos Jirachi versus Zapdos with the Jolteons. Yeah. So, a few people saying that he's playing Pikarom, or the Pikachu Zekrom GX. That's actually not... He's playing a copy of it, which is the only copy we've seen all weekend.
Very true.
We've seen one Pikachu Zekrom, I think. There may have been one other one, but not many. Which
I was really hoping for a cute little Pikachu to appear on stream, but I mean, I've got my highlight with Charizard, so I'm fine.
So both players more or less ready to set up, so we can cut to the game, so we can see what their prize cards are as they come out. It's going to be a game very much back and forth. Gustavo is able to tilt the prize trade in his favor by using the Jolteon GX. It appears that our logo is about as tight as we are. It's transitioning somewhat more slowly. Both players forgot, but then I was like, oh no, wait, we're on stream. So the prize cam does take a bit of getting used to. You had to take your prizes and put them somewhere slightly different. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we are having deck lists finally.
So at this point,
we have Gustavo and Adam.
Yep, perfect. So Gustavo's list we saw yesterday on stream. One of the two people who have made the top cut, Pedro as well, playing the Jolteon GX. New out in Europe, I believe, this week. I think it actually came out. It was released like last week or something. Or like legal last week in the States, but no one played it because it wasn't legal. And people going, well, the free retreat is really nice to combine with the Zapdos because it gives you an easy way of pivoting around to take your knockouts.
And I think the players are waiting for the confirmation that they're allowed to start.
Yep.
So
both players are ready. Gustavo's like, that's a card I'm opening with. Great. And I didn't see who won the prize trade, but see the handshake, and we are underway. Eevee versus Jolteon, the Jirachi.
And we see the first sandwich of this top 8 single elimination round.
So we now get to Adam throwing cards on the floor, but also taking a Lily from his Stellar Wish. So that he is able to try and draw some cards. It probably means he has some cards in his hand that he will be able to quickly play down. He looks like he has multiple Zapdos in there. He has an electric power. He has a lot of Zapdos in there. And a okay, so what happened there is Adam went, okay, right, cool. I needed a Lily because I'm going to throw all my hand on the table. And he did that. So the 3 Zapdos in play, basically saying that he's able to find his attackers very easily. Just needs to find ways to continuously switch between them. The Shrine of Punishment in play as well, which means that Gustavo is going to have to think twice about evolving using the Energy Evolution ability on the Eevee. And
the Buzzwole
also the Buzzwole, just to threaten the knockout. Because what this really says is that if he attaches a Rainbow and Gustavo has no way of finding another basic Pokemon, then he takes a knockout, and we see an Aether Paradise, a very passive stadium, a stadium that we
haven't seen that for the whole weekend, I think.
No, it is a stadium that a lot of people are reluctant to play. A lot of stadiums that people use now are very much active stadiums. They do something on the turn that you play them. You get some return for free. But this now means that Gustavo's basic lightning Pokemon, not the Jolteon, take 30 less damage from opponent's attacks before weakness and resistance, which means that after applying weakness and resistance, which means that the Buzzwole is still doing some damage to things if they are still lightning weak. But he's having to play the counter gym early here, simply because of the Shrine of Punishment threatening to start setting up KOs for Adam. I think that is actually only a one of in this
Yeah,
list.
he only plays one. It's kind of hard to figure out because Gustavo's deck list is in Portuguese, and I would say he has not the nicest handwriting, but
we can just
we're
about
able
read
to
it.
figure that out.
I mean, something that we learn as commentators is how to read very weird-looking deck lists as we go.
In foreign languages.
So, Jolteon, Marshadow being played, so both players having
Losing
to
it.
let it loose and shuffling their hands in. Not so much of a problem for Adam. He already has a lot of his board set up. He is able to kind of get to his attackers fairly easily. He has a Guzma, if you can see an energy, and he has the rainbow, double rainbow, so he can actually attack with the Buzzwole if he wants to. And we're going to see the first Electro Bullet of the weekend. The Jolteon doing 30 and 30. Basically the Jet Punch.
It's quite decent.
It's basically the Jet Punch, and whilst Jet Punch benefited from the damage boost from things like Strong Energy originally and Diancie, this one can still benefit from having access to the Electro powers as you go. So
We see Guzma.
quick Guzma and an Electro power, so that is one prize, just like that. And taking the Tapu Koko GX from the prize cards means that if Gustavo is able to find multiple attachments and get himself into a strong position with things like having access to Head Bolt from the Jolteon, although the Absol's back, it means that he is able to punish it fairly easily by using the Tapu Koko GX attack. Lily for Gustavo after attaching the energy and using a rescue stretcher to recover the Absol, knowing full well that that ability to disrupt Adam's side of the board is invaluable in this matchup.
Oh yes, and actually Gustavo is in a very decent position. He has the Jolteon GX active, it has 2 energies attached to it, and it is going to knock out this Zapdos.
Yep, even if it wasn't 110 damage exactly, the Zapdos is also weak to lightning, and just means that that Zapdos is on its way to the discard pile. This Jirachi is having a quick nap, searching for a few cards using the Stellar Wish ability that we've seen time and time again this weekend, used to take cards from the deck that these Zapdos decks need every turn to keep switching to take knockouts. There was another Guzma in there, but it would be... I don't know if Adam is particularly content to use the Guzma, or if he would prefer to find one of his other switching options in the shape of his Escape Ropes or his switches, the 2 copies of each... 2 copies of each in this deck, so that he is able to keep taking and putting some pressure on. He would like to deal with either the Absol. The Marshadow is an easy price he can take later. The Zapdos is also something he would like to be able to take out, as it's another attacker that Gustavo could easily go into with the free retreat.
What he wants to is actually to have the escape rope, because you don't really want to leave that Jolteon in the active position. You cannot KO it. It's a 2-hit KO, and you want to make it harder for Gustavo to actually be able to attack and deal some damage.
Well, so with the Buzzwole already in play, Adam is in a position where he can threaten the Sledgehammer at any given moment. So if Gustavo goes to 4 prize cards and the Jolteon has not used its GX attack and is not in the active position, Adam will be able to use the Sledgehammer to take 2 prizes and change the prize trade back in his favour.
Yeah, but I think Gustavo is well aware of that. So he's going to go after that Buzzwole.
So
pretty sure.
We've seen double Blitzel hit the board. Whether he's going to go for double Zeb Striker, I don't know.
Is he able to? Is he playing a 2-2 line?
He's playing
yes,
a 2-2 line. That would be very aggressively sprinting through his deck, drawing an awful lot of cards every turn. And the Sleep Flip gets woken up, only to have to face its nightmare whilst awake of a Jolteon that is ready to knock it out, or a Zapdos can come in as well. So, by using the Zapdos to take the KO here, he goes to 4 prize cards, but the Zapdos is resistant to the fighting of Buzzwole, so would force a switch out of them anyway. So, he's just considering this, because if he does this, it means that if Adam already has the Guzma in hand and the energy, he can just promote something else, and then just proceed to Guzma out the Jolteon and even up the prize trade.
So I wonder what we're going to see here. If it's just a simple Zapdos
still
attack,
has to knock it out.
If there's something more coming.
So I think it's just going to be the attack.
Oh wow!
He doesn't have access to things like, so promoting the Blitzel tells you he has Guzma. and the rainbow immediately.
Yeah.
And this Sledgehammer will even out the prize trade.
Oh, we see an Ultra Ball first. So he might be going for Tapu Lele Guzma.
He's not playing the Tapu Lele. These decks don't need to.
True,
with
yeah.
access to the Jirachi to take the cards from their deck as they go. So we see the first sprinting option, able to now retreat for free. And free sprint to draw 4 cards. He gets the rainbow. He has the switch card, but he doesn't have access to the Guzma in that selection, I don't think. So has
that
an
doesn't
attachment.
really look good for Adam.
No, he has access to switch. He has access to. That's kind of it at this stage. Just showing the judge of. So we have the table judge now. He's just showing the judge of. Oh no, I used sprint to draw a card, so I can still use my support in this turn. Grabs a Jirachi from the nest ball. He knows he's looking for Guzma anyway, so here he can actually retreat the Zeb Striker for free. Use the Jirachi and hope to hit the Guzma, because if it gets stuck, it's not at the end of the world anyway.
And we see a Stellar Wish.
Escape rope, shrine, nothing
no
in there.
Guzma. Oh, very sad on Adam's side.
Yeah, and at this stage, it's going to be an awful lot more difficult.
At least an escape rope.
Well, the escape rope means he can take a KO for sure with Sledgehammer if he wants to, or he could use the Zapdos instead on everything other than the Tapu Koko Prism Star, and he's able to push through. So, yep, promotes rainbow. It says, look, you're going to take the knockout anyway.
Yep.
You're outside of the Sledgehammer turns. I'm going to just have to live with this. So here, the fact that he wasn't able to kind of flip the prize trade back in his favour means that Gustavo is able to now simply declare another attack. He can attach to the Zapdos, take the KO with the Zapdos if he has 1 damage boost. And
He could also just take the KO with the Jolteon.
no, I think he would rather use the single prize attacker here, because the Jolteon, because it's no longer a basic, takes full damage. If the Paralyze doesn't matter. Oh, okay, so he's just going to do a combination of Escape Rope and Guzma. So he can take out the Zeb Striker, because he knows Adam is going to need a lot of cards to come back into this game, and just basically says that he has to kind of earn his cards. He can't just draw through his deck very quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, Adam still has the Jirachi, so he has some kind of options to get to some draw supports.
So another Ultra Ball, discarding the Pikachu Zekrom. Tag Team GX going, look, in this matchup, this feels like it's not necessary. I'm going to take one-shots with most of these things anyway by taking out your basics and your small Pokemon like your Jirachis and your Blitzels. I don't need to worry about taking an aggressive knockout. And he's just considering if he wants to use his GX attack here. And he is. As it basically forces Adam to have to find a switch card to do anything this turn. And if he can't find the switch card, he didn't have Guzma last turn, Gustavo goes 2 prizes up in the prize trade, which is devastating at this stage.
Oh yes, it is.
So that would be the GX attack of choice in this game for Gustavo, not the Tapu Koko GX that he's playing a copy of. As here he wants to basically ensure that Adam has no way back into it. He's got enough of a lead, and his board state is that much better that he can afford to slow the game down and go, right, how do I not lose, not how do I win?
Yeah, true. True, yeah, we saw that change of pace a lot, especially in those mirror matches. But you have to rethink. We see a switch, another Jirachi. Adam needs to find something to keep going.
He needs a Guzma. He finds it. I think that's the new art of the Guzma.
Yeah.
Makes life as a commentator a little bit more difficult, because now instead of just remembering 2 arts for the full art and the regular art for the Guzma, I have to think of a new one. Electric Power, Guzma, and he's taking out the Absol.
Yeah, I mean, Absol makes his life very hard.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to see in this game. It's always a credit to TPCI for their card design of if they print a card that has a strong ability, like strong attack, like Zapdos, they often print something that you can tech against it at the same time. As like they've clearly tested it and gone, huh, this is a bit strong if we don't have any way to slow it down. But let's give them Absol as well.
Yeah, I mean they need to do it, right?
So, Electric Power. Does
He's just taken it.
Switch
He's not played it yet.
card so he can come in and KO the Zapdos? Or would he prefer to go after the Buzzwole on the bench?
We see him attaching a choice band.
It is worth noting that he should be careful about playing any extra items or any energy down, because if he does, that then plays into the Tapu Koko GX of Adam.
Yep.
And again, that can help recover the uneven prizes and help him get back into the game. But it's fairly straightforward at this point for Gustavo, taking the KO, having played the Electro Power this turn, so that the Thunderous Assault is doing a total of 110. Even though Zapdos is weak to lightning, the drawback is that Zapdos is not attack is not affected by resistance or weakness. Sorry, so big difference for them. So yeah, it's 2 E-Power. I think he's used 3 in total.
Yep.
So there's only the 1 damage modifier left, because the Aether Paradise obviously affects both sides of the board. So the Zapdos is but difficult to knock out for both players. So Adam having to really consider his sequencing here, because he's like, I kind of want to play this Ultra Ball, but I also need to find a particular supporter.
Yeah,
So he's just trying to work out which is the best way to maximise his odds and his outs. Does he Ultra Ball to get to the Pokemon first? No, he's deciding not to, because I'm guessing his game plan changes depending on which supporter he draws here.
Did he even get a supporter?
He saw a Lily in there, but that's not good enough at this stage.
So what would you want, ideally?
Well, so at this stage, he has a large hand, so the Lily is kind of pointless. He needs to find access to a Guzma, so he can at least hit something fairly hard. Like, he needs to find something that he can take out the Jirachi on the bench, or the Marshadow. The Jirachi preferably, as it is the engine that Gustavo has been running on.
Yeah, very true. So I think Adam decided on something. Unfortunately, we couldn't really see it. Oh, it's a Cynthia.
Yeah. She's just Ultra Balling away for the Zeb Striker again, because he knows that he needs to use other ways to draw through his deck this turn. Just discarding his... Just double checking his discard cards. Okay, well, I've used all the cards. Do I definitely have these things left?
We see an Electro Power
and a
Guzma
so he's
for
going to go
the
for
Jirachi.
Yep. Got to guarantee that he can take the knockout. May as well play the Electro Power regardless of the ability to take the KO in other ways. And
Still needs the energy.
Yeah, he does need the energy. He seems somewhat frustrated that not hitting it. The one lightning is in his prize cards, but he does have a fair few others available. I think he has a switch that he's considering. I think he's also, just going to pass. The Zapdos in the active position.
That's very sad.
Well, the Zapdos in the active position is fine. Ideally, Gustavo will be taking out the Zeb Striker this turn to prevent Adam from having the outs the turn after.
So it's Gustavo's turn again. We see a Stellavish. Going for an Ultra Ball.
So
Gustavo's not really in need of something, but he still might play to thin out his deck.
Yep. He may not be looking for anything in particular, but it means that he can take one bad draw out of his deck without having to kind of draw it later when he's looking for particular parts. Electric Power, Guzma, and he is taking out the Zeb Striker as needed. Moving down to the single prize card remaining, and I don't really see a way back into this game for
No,
Adam.
me neither.
I think Adam has fallen just a little bit too far behind,
I
missing
think
a single
Adam is
turn.
also not really seeing a way back into the game.
Yeah, you could kind of see that with his the way he reacted to missing the KO the last turn and missing the energy. He was like, oh, if I don't have that, I don't see how I can get into this game. He has no way of really dealing with the Jolteon. He has the Tapu Koko. He has the Beast Energy.
Adam also turning his Jirachi to the wrong side. Gustavo correcting.
It's always fun to see how well players know the game. Of like people have been playing this game for so long that when they see a single mistake like that, they're like, I have to correct this. This is actually how this should look. You can also tell this by like how clean their board state is as they play.
Yeah.
When you go to locals, people have very messy board states, but look at Gustavo's. Everything's lined up. Everything's very neat, very tidy. As the second Jirachi finds a Nest Ball for Tapu Koko Prism Star, so it can use the ability with the Beast Energy in hand. But yeah, we just have it in hand. But if you can get to the Beast Energy in hand, there was potentially the option to use Swing Around this turn to take a correct KO, because it is 2 fighting and a colorless. If you can get the Guzma, he can attack the Jolteon, but he will need at least one head flip to be able to pull this off. So here we go. We see one, and it's gone. So now it's a single prize apiece. But having to use the rainbow does mean that Gustavo does not need the damage modifier to take the KO. He will simply need to find a way of retreating this Jirachi.
So what he needs now is an energy.
Yep, an energy or a Guzma. Any of these cards.
And that's game for Gustavo.
And that is 1-0 to Gustavo in the first game of our top 8. Really interesting game. Having to come back and forth, having to time his GX attack carefully to kind of play around the Buzzwole, because the Buzzwole was taking a KO on the Jolteon was the main way into that game for Adam.
Definitely. I mean, Adam was kind of able to put some pressure on Gustavo, but Gustavo was in the lead for the whole game, and he wasn't giving up his position.
It's one of those things of whoever takes the first prize, if they can keep the pressure just enough on, then that's all it takes. It'll be interesting to see who opts to go first here. So Adam has the choice. He may wish to take the first prize because his deck is the one with access to more Zapdos and more Jirachis. So he may consider going second just so he can take a prize early. But that then does mean Gustavo gets a turn to set up his board again, and then that can be very difficult to come back into.
Definitely.
So both players just having to shuffle up and make sure that they are ready for the second game. Both players are no stranger to top 8. They both know that they have a little bit more time than normal. So you have the 60 minutes per round as opposed to the 50, which means that some of the decisions that you have to make, you can take some more time to consider.
Yeah, and you also get the chance to play the full games, which is always great. You don't really want to lose in timeout in this close series if you made it that far through the tournament.
So Adam's just like, right, okay, cool. I have no Pokemon in that hand. And Gustavo does manage to avoid a mulligan. So I can see a Zeraora in the prizes for Gustavo, which could be slightly annoying. Having the access to free retreat is a big deal when most people are playing the copy of Absol as a tech. This is not true for Adam. Adam is not playing a copy of Absol in his list. He's just going for the rainbow option. There's an Electric Power, a Nihilego, and a Switch, at least in Adam's prize cards. And the Tapu Koko GX start for Gustavo is one of the Pokemon that you really do not want to start with. You lose access to the Aero Trail ability. The surprise factor of Aero Trail, pulling the energy onto a Tapu Koko to take a big knockout. But also it puts 2 prizes on the board for Adam to try and hunt down over the course of the game to tilt the exchange of prizes in his favour, to kind of equalise. If Gustavo's quite like to take the first knockout, he wants to make sure that he can equalise by taking 2 at the right time. That is a really awkward Jirachi. There was just the escape board, which he will take, so that he can move the Jirachi freely, providing Gustavo doesn't go for Absol.
What Adam wants now is a few more basic Pokemon. He has a support Pokemon, but obviously he wants a Zapdos and an energy. Yeah, there it is.
Yep, and holds the escape board for next turn because it basically means that no matter which of the two Pokemon end up in the active, as long as it isn't the Zapdos, he is able to use the Thunderous Assault for a fairly large amount of damage. So
yeah, now we see Gustavo. He started with the Tapu Koko GX. It's definitely not a Pokemon you want to start with.
And just a Choice Band and a Cynthia means that the rest of that hand was not really looking very good either.
Not at all.
So
Let's
fresh
see what
6
he
cards.
gets.
Well, there's Jirachi.
Energy. Ether Paradise.
Well, that's actually a really nice thing because even if Adam now switches his Jirachi back, the Thunderous Assault is only doing a 50 damage turn, which is not really a lot. There is a Guzma there. He could well consider going for the Guzma to take out the Jirachi on the bench, leaving Gustavo again in the position of only having access to the Tapu Koko and 2 energy. Kind of saying, look, you're going to have to find a way of attacking with this at some point. The 130 damage from Sky-High Claws is enough to take a one-hit knockout on everything in Adam's deck, before you take into account the Aether Paradise.
Yeah, and we see Adam retreating.
And then using a Sprint can just retreat and take the first prize of the game on the Jirachi. So now with the Tapu Koko, oh dear, that was not a strong turn from Gustavo of, I'm just going to pass. I'm going to attach this energy and I'm going to pass. Now, 80 damage, 50 damage so far. He's just going to scoop it up going, nope, it's not worth me playing this. My hand is a bunch of damage modifiers and nothing else. So very quickly going to 1-1 with 35 minutes left for us to finish the round. Is plenty of time. We will see a probably quite quicker winner in this series.
That means we can finally have a winners in the future.
It would be quite interesting to have. We already have interviewed Gustavo.
Yeah.
So we can have him on again to see how his tournament has progressed since the early stages of yesterday when we first had him on.
I mean, maybe some of you haven't seen the interview with Gustavo, so still great.
But you know, both players here just pile shuffling away, making sure that everything is kind of. You want to make sure that you're still randomizing your deck, but it's also kind of a mental thing of you're going to shuffle anyway, but it's just kind of nice to pile shuffle. You get to count all your cards out as you do so.
Yeah,
Go, right, there's all 60
here.
It's also
the mental thing that gives you a little break.
Yeah.
You have some time, and those players, they are not really in a rush. They have more time during top 8 than in Swiss rounds, and the second game was really fast.
Well, so you can actually see both players are having a little chat and a little laugh as well. It's, again, for some people when they get to the top 8 and be on stream, they're very nervous. They kind of go very tense. And that's fully understandable, there's a lot of pressure on. But these two players are used to this.
Yep, they are.
So they're probably able to relax a little bit. And also, given the circumstances of Gustavo going, yeah, but look at how bad this hand is. There's nothing I can do with this. As we are getting the prizes ready. Gustavo basically gesturing, I'm going to start a Lily, right? That's how this game works. I can start supporters. This time, Adam finding the basic Pokemon before Gustavo. So he gets the extra card. Can be important in these first few turns, especially if Adam is going second. That is an extra way of getting to a Zapdos attack turn 1 to take out one of the smaller basic Pokemon that Gustavo may play.
And we see the prize cards on both sides. They're not really concerning.
Oh dear, there is a Tapu Koko in the active position turn 1 again. And also looking at the rest of Adam's hand, it's not particularly... I don't see a draw supporter, and I see a lot of search cards he can draw.
I mean...
yeah, it's
that
not a
means he can go at least for Substriker and Jirachi and eventually find something.
Yeah, but it does mean that he loses the benefit of having the first attack of the game. That is something that this deck can do. Is normally going second is a huge disadvantage for a lot of decks.
Yeah, we've talked about this on this stream a lot.
And being able to mitigate that by having access to the turn 1 attack, taking KO, can be a big factor, but Adam will struggle to do so. The instant Jirachi from Gustavo, quite likely to try and find a lightning energy off this Lily, so that he can get one of his Jolteon into play, retreat, and start making some wishes about which cards he'd like to find.
This energy evolution EV is just so strong.
Okay.
Oh, let
so
loose.
this is actually really big. By including the single copy of the Marshadow with the Let Loose ability, Adam's hand is clearly bad because he started a non-optimal starter.
But on Gustavo's side, you can't expect your opponent to have nothing.
No, but at the same time, he's going, right, okay, let's now increase the odds that he has nothing by giving him less to work with in the first place. I do see
Cynthia.
A slightly stronger hand, though. There is a Nest Ball. There is also the Electric Power, which he probably won't want to use yet. But he can start to set up his board marginally better than he could have done with the other alternatives. He doesn't have the energy in hand, otherwise he could consider going for Guzma to take out the Jirachi.
And you see Gustavo immediately cleaning Adam's board.
Yeah. It's... A lot of these players are like, no, I really want to understand what the board state is, because the board state can get very complicated in these kinds of games where you have damage counters everywhere, energy on various Pokemon. You do need to be able to see clearly what is happening, and Gustavo, you can see him like adjusting his like deck and discard pile positioning to go, no, these are exactly here. I'd like them to be precise.
Yeah. True. You can see Adam attach an energy. And yeah, the question now is, how is he going to remove that Tapu Koko from the active position?
With difficulty. By benching the single Jirachi, Gustavo, if he can find a way of bringing the Jirachi into the active via the Guzma, he can take a knockout. But he's not. He's going for the Electric Power instead. Maybe if he draws into the Jolteon as an out, he can actually free retreat and hit for 110 damage into the Tapu Koko GX. Or he could just use the Electric Bullet attack for 60 damage and 30 to one of the bench Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's Gustavo now doing some Stellar Wish activities. And he's going for... he seems to be deciding between S-Ball and Cynthia.
Yeah. I think his board set is pretty solid. So he doesn't really need more Pokemon in play. So we're just going for the fresh hand instead, so he can at least try and find a way of maybe attacking this turn, taking out the KO.
We see him benching an Absol.
Which is going to cause issues in general. Has been one of the most included tech Pokemon this weekend, but also one of the most efficient. Just by being in play causes problems, but we just see the pass at this point as the Jirachi stays asleep. Before Adam's Jirachi joins it by making Stellar Wish. I see the skateboard. The second Jirachi on the bench already for Gustavo means that in the event of the active being knocked out, he can simply promote the second one and continue using its ability to grab cards from his deck. It is a skateboard for Adam, so he can maneuver it. Which does not
really help him.
Well, no, so this is the thing. At least he has the attachment in play, so he can actually attach and a skateboard this turn to move it. He already has the Guzma, so he can just take the KO.
Yep.
If he has any of the damage modifiers, there's one. There is Electric Power, taking out the Absol.
And the nasty Absol is gone.
This means then the skateboard that he's just taken from his Stellar Wish will be more useful for him, giving his Jirachi a free retreat. So Gustavo really looking at what he wants to achieve this turn, and going, well, attacking into this active position is fine for me, or we can find an escape rope if we want to not do so. If we can find a way of getting Jolteon set up with a damage modifier, he can take the KO on the Zapdos using its weakness to his advantage, but he will only require the one modifier.
Yeah, and we see Gustavo Stella wishing again. What would he be hoping for now? There's a Guzma.
Yeah, he's already used the support for this turn, but having Guzmas available kind of tells Adam that he has to be careful with what he benches, because he will just take it out with the Zapdos, if he can find an energy.
Which
Speaking of, so the attachment to the Zapdos.
It's going to be another pass.
Yep.
Oh.
But this time, at least the Jirachi wakes up, so he can at least retreat it, guaranteed. Should it survive this turn?
Oh no, it should not. It's Adam's turn again.
Going for Guzma straight
Guzma,
away.
Yes.
He's just
He has the
considering.
escape bot still in hand.
Yeah, so he can
the
guarantee take a
not
KO.
there anymore, so he could just retreat the Jirachi, get the extra power on Thunderous Assault.
Yeah, so going for the Jirachi so that he can basically guarantee that there's only the one in play. He could also have gone for the Eevee there, knowing full well that it's slightly more difficult for him to deal with the Jolteon than it would be for the other Pokemon in the deck. But he's also ahead on one prize, so he actually might want to force the Jolteon to come out on a turn where he's able to escape rope and Guzma, and then take a KO with something like Sledgehammer if that is an option.
Oh, and there it is.
So Gustavo will have to take a couple of prizes before that's really threatening anything, but the Thunderous Assault from the Zapdos is taking out the Jirachi again. Probably one of the most common occurrences we've seen this weekend, especially followed by the promotion of another Jirachi. Gustavo really having to think about this. I didn't see very many good options in that hand, in that selection. Just double checking what's in his hand. The Aether Paradise might be tempting, but it also causes issues with him taking the KOs on both the Zapdos and the Tapu Koko for Adam.
Yeah, but he still decides to go for the Aether Paradise. And another nest ball.
Yeah. Started shuffling, then realised, wait, I'll just stop because I'm definitely doing something this turn where I want to use these cards. So, this time, Tapu Koko Prism Star able to grab some energy from the discard pile.
We see Guzma. And I think we will see Gustavo taking his first prize.
Yep, so first prize of Game 3 for Gustavo. Removing the Jirachi, a card that Adam is going to need to see multiples of throughout the game to be able to grab as many cards from his deck as he can to keep the combinations going. There is then the Electro Power, and if you can find a switch card, this means the Zapdos can come in and take the KO on the active Zapdos. Again, keeping himself 2 prizes ahead in the prize exchange. With really no risk of this currently being taken away from him. He does have access to switch, so he can just take the active knockout. He may have also wanted to see the escape rope here, because all of the things on the bench, other than Marshadow, which is what Gustavo would promote, would have been nice to take out. But instead we just see switch, Thunderous Assault, and not KO because of the Aether Paradise. Something that Stadium that I forget exists, because a lot of people think it's not very strong. But when you're in a 2-prize, in a 2-hit knockout exchange anyway, every smaller edge you can get is worth it.
Yeah. And we see Guzma on Gustavo's side.
Into Jirachi, so he can use Stellar Wish to try and find a way of retreating the Jirachi so he can then KO the Blitzel.
Does he find the way?
He has the Stretcher. He may want to take... this is something that he wants to find maybe for the Absol later. It stops the onslaught from Adam. But the next prize that Gustavo takes does force him down to the Sledgehammer turn.
There's the escape board, so he does find a way to retreat his Jirachi.
So the Jirachi can move back out of the active escape board, not only reducing the retreat cost of the Pokemon it is attached to, but also meaning that it ignores the restriction of being asleep or paralyzed will have on you retreating. Doubly useful in the case of Jirachi.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those cards were definitely designed to be played together.
So now we find awkward turn. So he can do 60 damage using the Electro Power and 30 to the bench.
We see an Energy Switch, a card we haven't really seen during the weekend. And a Marshadow. No,
so that
sorry.
Energy Switch that we've seen a few people include in their lists, notably the Persephone earlier on, but no one has played it yet, and being able to suddenly set up a Jolteon out of nowhere is actually a really big deal, because this now takes a knockout, and without having to use the GX attack means that the Sledgehammer can't take the 2 prizes that Adam really wants it to take. Adam trying to get these cards into play so quickly, he basically dropped the Blitzel from his deck. He's like, oh, quick, get on the board.
I mean, Blitzel looks very quick.
And Zapdos and a Lily for a fresh 6. No Jirachis in play for Adam. And Gustavo double checking the discard pile for Adam. Probably looking for damage modifiers in there. And switch cards, because you need to keep track of which switch cards are there, so that we have to work out basically what he has to play around in terms of promoting, if there is a knockout this turn. But that's just a pass from Adam. He has no way of doing any damage to anything other than the Jolteon missing out on the escape rope this turn. The way he passed that turn was very much a, well, I got nothing, over to you. And at this point, this is the way we see why Jolteon is probably the preferred partner this weekend for the Zapdos and Jirachis, is that Swift Run GX means that whilst he was behind on the prize exchange, that is now different, because now he can go 1-up. And by timing the GX attack into it the 4 prize turn, he can dodge the risk of Sledgehammer from the Buzzwole. But at the same time, the Buzzwole does have access to things like the strong to the Beast Energy and the Choice Band, so it can still threaten if should Adam be playing copies of the Shrine of Punishment, which he's also really struggled to find at any point. I think he's probably slightly preferring the Aether Paradise, because it kind of forces the continued 2-shot exchange.
Yeah, I mean, it ruins the numbers. It ruins the math. And it's also a math that Gustavo is probably well used to, because he plays the Aether Paradise himself.
So here we see the
his
Tapu
opponents
Koko
might
GX
not be used to it.
coming in, and a Lily, hoping to find one more energy for the Tapu Koko. If he can find it now, he is able to take a knockout on the Zapdos.
And down goes the Zapdos.
So now down to 3 prizes, cards remaining for Gustavo, able to push through the awkward turn, having to find a lightning attacker to take the attack without having to risk leaving the Buzzwole, which now has 2 energy in play, because the swing around could have threatened the knockout on a Jolteon, so having to find another way of taking the KO. The turn for Adam starts by promoting his Blitzel, knowing full well this is probably his best option for retreating. He can retreat into the Zapdos, but you see Adam, hands on face, going, okay, right, how on earth do we win this? Really having to think it out. Because the prize trade has been taken away from him, and that Tapu Koko is now able to basically just declare an attack and continue taking prizes. So,
it has 160 HP, so that makes it a 2-shot for him at least.
So Volkner, discarding the lightning energy, also took. I can't remember what set these lightning energies are from with this cool little ring pattern from Adam.
Oh yeah, I've just seen them and I was wondering the same. I've seen them before the match on the table.
The active, so the sprint ability for Adam, but I think he's just trying to work out exactly how the price flow is going to go. Got a little shrug of his shoulders, like, I don't really know how we can play around all these things. Choice bands, the single sprint, and he has the escape rope, but that's the only way of getting the Zeb Striker out of the active position, so it's going to be I think a pass.
Might be. But that does not look good for Adam.
No, that will be awkward for Adam. Gustavo having quite a successful holiday so far, making top 8 already.
Oh yes, yeah.
And could potentially push a little bit further.
Oh, there's the escape rope.
So he does have an escape rope. Now,
Gustavo's pretty much sacrificing something.
Yeah, he can just give the Marsh Shadow. It has no effect after it's been played. It just takes up a bench slot. And this is a swing around into the Marsh Shadow. I think he does. I can't remember if the Marshall has a fighting resistance with the flipping coins, so I can only assume it does.
It should be pretty irrelevant.
Well, no, because you had to flip at least the heads there to do so. But now, it's just the price change just seems to have gone for Adam. You can just retreat this Jirachi. Gustavo can just retreat this Jirachi. Gustavo just showing that's a lot of energy I just drew from my Jirachi. Both players enjoying the game, which is always good to see.
Yeah, they seem to have fun. They seem to chat quite a bit, so that's nice.
So
we see Gustavo powering up his Jolteon once again, retreating his Jirachi into his Tapu Koko, and are we going to see a Sky High Claw soon?
I think we are. It's going to be a Sky High Claws for the knockout on the Buzzwole. Down to 2 prizes remaining for Gustavo. There is potential for a 2-prize knockout on the Tapu Koko GX. He will need a couple of damage modifiers extra to be able to take it, with the Eighth Paradise still in play. It has stuck for the entirety of the game.
We see Adam now putting his Nihilego on the bench.
Yep, because if he has the Rainbow Energy here and a way to retreat, he can actually copy Tapu Thunder.
That's a Beast Energy.
Yes, he can use the Tapu Thunder GX to take the KO and move down to a single prize card. So here we see the benefit of playing these tech attackers that have particular turns where they have options. Because by having ways of taking these prizes and big knockouts unexpectedly, they can force very big turns out of things. So we see the Beast Energy, the retreats, and Nightcap copying Tapu Thunder GX and taking a huge 2-prize knockout, moving down to a single prize, taking the prize rate back in his favour now. So what the way for Gustavo to win this at this stage is to take a knockout on the Tapu Koko GX. I'm not entirely sure where he has ways of doing so. Looking through his list, he will need multiple damage modifiers to kind of pull through. He needs multiple. So it's 110 base, right? So he will need 3 damage modifiers from this Jolteon to take KO on the Tapu Koko because of the Eighth of Paradise.
And there seems to be something going on.
I think they're just double checking. There was no way of retreating, so the prize card that he took, it seems to be a mistake. The judge at the table has caught it and is now being resolved. So we'll have a ruling shortly. So because of the Absol in play for Gustavo, the Jirachi could not retreat. He would have had to have attached to the Jirachi to be able to do so, which is something he could not do. And by having taken the prize, it's a I believe it's actually a 2-prize penalty, which would actually end the game in Gustavo's favour. Unfortunate way for it to end. But
yeah, I mean, those are the rules, and you have to play according to the rules.
Yeah, a long game of it's a long weekend of Pokemon. Both of these players, as experienced as they are, it can happen. Even the top players will make mistakes, and we see that from Adam. Unfortunately, costing him the game in top 8. So we'll have a quick winners interview with Gustavo. So we will see the also I believe it was a case of, I think there was actually an option where he could have taken a switch.
Yeah, very unfortunate here.
Yeah, it's very easy to overlook something like that when you have quite so many options available to you every turn with your Jirachi searches.
Yeah, but we will try to get